It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, November 18th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another week together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Provi in the media, the Sunday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And yes, it is a wonderful and awesome Monday. A brand new week is starting with a brand new message. Hope you guys really enjoyed that Sunday message. We will go over it in the second segment. Don't forget, every single Thursday we have Q&A. So get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, for today's video, please leave a like and comment to build our community together. All right, so just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. So Sunday message title is Discern Whether It's the Holy Spirit. Oh, sorry. That's like last week's message. This week's message, two titles, is When Sharing the Word, You Should Deliver It with Wise Planning and Testify to. And the second title is Do Not Just Pray, But Take Action. All right, so here it is, guys. We're already on another Monday. It's been a wonderful and awesome weekend for me. Hope you guys enjoyed your time too. I had a super busy weekend, especially because a huge international volleyball tournament for the girls volleyball tournament. It was like an all-day event. It was like a little bit over 2 hours away from Wolmyeongdong. So we had to take a bus at 6 in the morning, and we started at, I think the opening ceremony started at like 9 something a.m. and it went straight to like 9:30 p.m. Like it was maybe around 9ish, right? 9:30 p.m. And it went really late, and we left a little bit early, and we still didn't get home till like 11:30 p.m. But awesome experience. I was there as a referee. But for me, it was super amazing to see how much the level of the girls' play has grown. Like, it's really, it's so much higher than what I saw in the past. And, I don't know, I was super impressed. And there was like two leagues, like the Eagle League and the Peace League. Eagle League is like the top league, and then the Peace League is for the like the amateurs and the people who are more beginners and such. But it was still really good. I enjoyed it. Japan came, Hong Kong came. It was just really good tournament. Some shocking things happened too, because there's high expectations for the Japanese team, and they ended up. I think they came like third in their pool. And they ended up facing like the strongest team, which is like got like ex-pro players and even an ex-national player on that team. So, that team just crushed everyone. There was such a disparity in skill for that one team that you knew what the score was by watching how they serve. Now, what does that mean? It basically means that when I'm refereeing and I look back to see, I don't even need to see the score. They're just doing these really easy serves because at that point you know that it was not a close game. I think they probably never dropped the set the entire time. But it was just really amazing to see how much the girls grew and how much higher. Like, you can see it. They've been practicing every single week for such a long time. It was just awesome to see how much they've grown in it. And I think their next goal is to reach is for their organization, the International Peace Volleyball Association or whatever it is, IPVA, I think. Their next goal is to reach 1,000 members inside this organization. And at the moment, I believe there's close to 700. So they're getting super close to it. So that's a good thing there. But for me, like I'm the ref and I'm watching, I'm watching the games really closely, and there's a couple funny things that I saw. Like funny things as a guy watching the girls play. And I'm like, they're really good. So I'm watching the girls play, but there's some funny things because it's just so different than how guys play sports. And the difference in competitiveness is, I think the guys are like, we're kind of a little bit more aggressive and way more like competitive, right? But there's like these funny, fundamental differences between how men and women play or how they interact with each other too. And it's just really, really funny to me. Like, I went on the bus with the Hong Kong team, and their team was surprisingly good. Like, they're telling me they were all beginners, but when I saw them practice, I was like, whoa, like they got good form and everything else. And even like the volleyball pastor there was shocked at how, like, he thought that they've been playing for a really long time. So these Hong Kong girls are there. All of a sudden, they meet someone from the Japanese team or something, and then you just hear screaming. They're like, ah, ah, they're like jumping and stuff. And then they're hugging for like 10, 15 seconds. And then on top of it, after they hug, they're holding each other's hands for like 2-3 minutes while they're looking straight into each other's eyes. And I was just like, wow, like it's so different. It's so odd to me as a guy. And the reason it's kind of funny to me is because I was picturing to myself is, imagine if guys, like when we saw each other, we were like that. Like it just, for me, that look, like guys look going, ah, hey boy, how's it going? And they start like screaming and hugging and then holding each other's hands for like 2-3 minutes while they're talking to each other, gazing into each other's eyes. Like for me, that is like something that's why I thought it was so funny, because I'm trying to picture guys, what would they do? Because, guys are like, we're like way more masculine. Like in a sense is like, we're not going to hold hands. We're just going to do like a dap, or we're going to, fist bump or something like that. We'll nod at each other, maybe a small hug, touching each other's back for about a second. Like max, it'll be 1 second. And like we're not going to be sitting there looking at each other's eyes, right? We're happy to see each other. And we don't stand face to face. We kind of like angle each other away. Like we'll never stand face to face, because for guys, like being perpendicular to each other, standing face to face, looking at each other's eyes is more of a challenge. That's what we're more angled when it becomes like people who are close to each other. And it was just funny to see the difference between the two. And it was so, because, it's a girls' tournament, 18 teams, and there's just a lot of screaming going on when everyone just arrives, right? And then during the game, it's so different too, because, volleyball, you'll have these huge rallies, crazy spikes and blocks, and they're just really exciting, right? But it's like when the girls, it's so like the level of joy is way higher, I think, than the level of guys at a general level. Like big block, the girls are screaming and jumping up and down together, and they're all like, ah! They're all screaming. Like guys, we'll do that one primal scream like, rah! And then the look on our face is super aggressive and almost like a mean looking. And then we'll like do a really strong handshake or like a, what do you call it? A high five. It's just super strong. Or we'll slap each other's butts or something like that. It's like, and like everyone on the team that just did a crazy play, they're all doing like power poses kind of thing, right? The look on the guys' faces, aggressive, while the girls, theirs is more like pure joy and happiness and screaming with like so much joy. I don't know. It's very, very different, right? And like even like girls are getting injured. They're going to be like crying on the floor and everything else. When guys get injured, you'll never see them cry. Like guys are more prideful to the point we pretend that it doesn't hurt and we try to quote unquote walk it off. Like, even if like the bone sticking out of our leg, we'll try to walk it off. Even though it's like so clear, like you broke a bone, we'll try to walk it off. Even if there's like a bone sticking out, yeah, even if a bone sticks out of your leg, we're still going to try to walk it off. And just being there as a referee, because I'm always watching, it's so interesting to see the differences. I super enjoyed it. Fun to watch how amazingly good these players have gotten. And some of them are so good. For me, it wasn't boring to watch. Like when if players are really, really bad, it's so boring. You know what I mean? But when I watched it, it wasn't boring. There was exciting games. I was able to, like, for me, my position is a setter. I do coaching stuff too. For me, being with these, it's no longer like a guy and girl thing. It's now more of we are volleyball players. And I totally like want to help the people who are setters, work with them, help them to, get better and better at it. And it's something that I think we need to realize more and more that, it's just, for me, it was just so good to connect with them at that level. Right. So that was something that I had such a great time with. And, interesting thing is, on the next day, Sunday, right after Sunday service, I had someone who asked me to lecture their sister, right? And the reason they asked me was because their sister is like 40 years old, so much, much older, has different experiences, been through a lot of things in life and stuff like that too. So they're like, hey, could you just like teach them? And it was really interesting because this person has basically been like a newcomer for like decades, like 20 years. Just always a newcomer. They learn the word, they never pass, they never like fully realize sun's name and stuff like that too. So, and they don't really come to church that often. So they're like a super newcomer. Well, super meaning like, they've been a super long newcomer. And, they've reached a certain point when they've learned the word already, which means that they're no longer like, they're not in that position of, like when they learn the word, they're not going to be shocked by it. They learn the word and they're like, I know this. Because, they've learned it so many times like over the last 20 years. And, even for me, I'm trying to think to myself is, like, what can you teach them that they don't already know? And the one thing that I realized while like, as I was inspired as I was teaching this newcomer was it's so interesting because I realized also for myself, there's like these little levels of like realization that we need to go through. And it was even something as simple as Peter and the fish. And in the beginning, you're going to kind of understand it as just basically knowledge. You're going to memorize it as knowledge. You know that it's talking like the fish is a parable and stuff like that too, right? And that's something we look at and say, oh, that's normal. Right? It's like, okay, I know that knowledge. It's kind of like memorizing 2 + 2. Very, very easy. And, I said to her, I was like, hey, be honest. Like, how interested are you in the word in the life of faith out of 10? And she said 2, right? And it's basically because she's just learning. That's all. She's like a perpetual newcomer that's just learning the word over and over again. But the one thing that's super interesting is like, I realized like the next stage is, of course, it's the knowledge, and then it becomes the wisdom. And in order to reach that stage of wisdom, there needs to be true experience of the word. And, for me is the one thing that really pushes me and helps me to realize more deeply about the word, right? Well, like the thing that I find really awesome about the word itself. 1 second. Sorry, my heater broke down. Like my boiler doesn't work in my house right now, so I bought a heater. So I'm just turning it up because it's kind of cold. But what happened is the one thing that I was really inspired to teach her about is making the word real in your life. And I was telling her the stories of like a true Peter and the fish, of me preaching the word, and after preaching the word, what happens? After preaching the word, people would support me or do something for me when I was like so broke. But all I did was like preach in a certain country for like 2-3 months. People would pass. And in the end, I would still be stuck with no money, but yet people would be inspired like to buy my next plane ticket. Like that's how crazy it was. And when I was sharing these stories with her, she was like going, oh, like that's it. I need to actually try faith. Like that she realized she was just in this level of just perpetual knowledge. And because she's already memorized it and knows what it means, it just stays there and it doesn't become any more real. And I was realizing like, yeah, all of us too, we've got to reach that stage where the word becomes reality in our life, where the word becomes something where we can say, not just like, oh, I know the concept of Peter and the fish. It becomes way more deeper, where it's going to be much more than me knowing the concept of Peter and the fish. It's more about us realizing in our real life, like the reality of that actual story. And when we experience these things, the word actually becomes real, right? It's kind of like that song, Reality Like a Dream. Like you think to yourself and you look at all the things that happen in the Bible and it looks impossible and it'll never happen again in our lifetime. But the reality is the only reason we don't really feel our faith or really understand our faith so much more deeply is because we don't truly experience it. Like we've never truly experienced Peter and the fish. We've never truly experienced Sunstop. We never truly experienced all these different lessons in such a way where we say, oh, it's not true because of the knowledge itself and because it says that in the Bible. We realize because it's something that we've actually tried and it's something that's actually that, like, we can testify that this is absolutely true, right? And I hope it's something that we can also do is that we're not going to just become people who have that knowledge of it, but we'll be the ones that are truly living the life of faith. And that's going to that's going to make the difference between us living the true life of faith and just kind of living a life of faith that we just know what is right, but we never really do anything about it. So I had a really, really good time with this person sharing my stories and sharing about making the word reality, right? And like right away, this person later called me and said, hey, can you please pray for my parents and this and that. And you can already see that this person was kind of gaining some type of interest in faith itself. That later they'll call me and say, please pray for my mother. Please pray for my father type of thing. So for me, that was quite, it was quite exciting for me because it's been a long time since I've actually lived that type of life. Like really, like not lived, really like, lived that not lived, had that type of time of lecturing. I haven't lectured in such a long time, but I am super grateful and super thankful that I was kind of given this opportunity. And it was really interesting too because it was all done in Korean. So guys, yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was enough for that person to really realize something too. But either way, so that's one of the things I had this very interesting conversation with. I had another interesting conversation with another member from Asia. And this person I know pretty well too. And the topic was interesting is basically, that saying is living rent-free in your head. Have you guys heard that before? There's a phrase that says, oh, living rent-free in your head is, it describes a situation where if there's something or someone that's occupying a large amount of space in your thoughts and emotions, and it's often negative, right? So it's like, for instance, imagine you have some bad experience in your life and you constantly talk about this negative experience. You probably might say that, oh man, this person's like, these this person has like these thoughts that are living rent free in their head, right? Just these negative thoughts constantly coming out, constantly bringing up the same topics and stuff like that too. And they kind of have that, these thoughts or this person or whatever it is, just living rent free in their head. And it became this very, very interesting conversation because a lot of times we do let people live rent free in our head, right? And basically, it's more of who we give access to our time, right? Who or what do you let live rent free in your head? And it's really interesting too, because a lot of times we allow people or things to guide our lives or make us think twice about what we do. It's like, when you kind of walk on eggshells. And it kind of, if you think about it, when they live rent free in your head, they kind of have access to your decision making. It's no longer just God, but it's your decision making is that important too. And for me, like one of the types of people that I find the worst type of people to give access to your heart or to live rent free in your head are people who are like perpetual victims, like just victim mentality. If you're not sure about how to know whether someone has this victim mentality, just constantly look at what they say. Just look at what they say. And you're going to see a common theme. It's always about what people did to them. It's always a blame on other people why they're unhappy kind of thing, right? And it's constantly about how others around them have made them unhappy or felt this or that. And they're kind of basing their life around these things that happened in the past or done things or maybe things in the present about what people have done to them, like even now, right? And they're constantly blaming other people for the misery in their life. But for me, like the worst part is when people are like this is they feel entitled to sympathy. It almost feels like they're begging people to feel for them and feel sorry for them. And for me, it's like the reason why we don't want people like that to live rent free in your head doesn't mean you don't empathize with them. It's just then you don't let them live rent free in your head because the negativity is just draining, right? Just look at how people talk. You'll be able to see it, right? You can't let them live rent free in your heart and mind. And I've seen way too many people like that allow others to kind of live rent free in their hearts, right? Because even for me, a lot of times, like, I don't know, it's really interesting because one of the things that I looked at and I was like, oh, this is really interesting, is when I hear people who assume a lot, right? And it's really interesting because too many people try to convince others with using words like, but everyone else agrees with me. Oh, everyone else thinks like this too. Oh, I'm sure some of them are thinking the same thing as me or this or that. Like they kind of use other people and they'll put an assumption in there to try to make you agree with them or make them feel that they're right, right? And I'm sure, I'm sure, oh, they're definitely think the same thing as me, but it's all assumption. And for me, whenever I hear anyone say, "Oh, they agree with me," whatever, I'm very clear about this because there's one thing that I don't like to be manipulated by is where people say that everyone agrees with me. I'd be like, "How many people have you talked to? Is it really everyone? Did you talk to everyone about this specific topic? How many people did you actually talk to?" Right? Because it makes a difference. See, some generalizations do make sense, right? But some generalizations are too specific to assume. Like, for instance, very easy generalization that people will agree with. Remember, generalization is men are stronger than women, right? And generally, this is true. That's something that people can make an assumption because it's a real assumption that, that everyone agrees with. Like, yeah, it's so true. Generally speaking, men are stronger than women. Yes, there are some women who are stronger than some men, but generally, the fact is true. This is a real generalization, a true generalization that men are generally stronger, faster than women. But once it gets super specific, like about a certain thought, then you know that the person is just trying to get you to believe their point, you know? And it's basically straight projection. They're projecting their thoughts onto other people too, right? And the one thing, the moment you start letting people live rent free in your head, we were like me and my friend were discussing, like, man, then all of a sudden they, even without saying a word, they can bully you, right? They can bully you. And one of the things that I really liked, especially the best example I give to you about people who use absolutes. No one agrees with you. Everyone thinks like this. No one believes you. Those are what you call absolutes, right? And I like how Star Wars actually talks about it, because there's a Jedi and the Sith, right? The Sith always deal in absolutes. Always. No one believes you. Everyone thinks this. Why would, no one in their right mind thinks the same way as you, right? The Jedi are reasonable and rational, and they reason things out, while the Sith always deal in absolutes, right? So when I was like, whenever I hear about the Jedi and the Sith, that's one of the things I super agree with, is like, whenever people are dealing in absolutes, that's probably not a person you want to be like dealing with or working with, because it's dealing with absolutes which are never true. It's never true. Everyone is against you. No one likes you. No one thinks the same way as you. Those are absolutes, and it's very clear that these are not. I will say in almost all cases, that's not true, right? So for me is with this conversation, I was like, oh, that's so true. And a lot of times we do allow people to live rent free in our heads, and it changes our conversations, and it changes the way we deal with each other too. So that's something that I wanted to share with you guys, because these are just really interesting conversations that I have. But I do have a question for you that I want to get your opinion on, right? So my question to you is this, because I had a friend who kind of went through this, and they said, when they asked, when you get deeply hurt or betrayed by someone, like betrayal, right? We're talking that level. What do you do? Like, what is your habit? What is your programming that if something that bad happens to you, what do you do? And this person was telling me, like, they just cut everything off, like all their friends, and they don't want to deal with anyone, and they have a hard time trusting anyone, and they're just like, they'll cut off everyone, they'll be alone. I was like, wow, that's really extreme. But they were like, yeah, that's just the way that they deal with it. I was like, man. And I was like, oh, and it's interesting because everyone has their own way that they cope with these types of things. So my question to you would be, what or how do you cope with something that strong happening in your life? If you've been betrayed, how do you actually cope with that? And that's something that I think is quite interesting, and that's something I think that I would be interested to see how do you actually, like, even for myself, if someone really, really betrayed me, like someone who I was really close to, I think to myself, I was like, if someone actually did that, how would I react? And I think it's kind of true. Like, me too, I would kind of want to be alone. But for myself, I could only be alone for so long before my thoughts became like too negative and too bad that I just totally wouldn't want to, I don't think I can handle myself, that I would be alone and then probably end up starting to talk to people about it, just to kind of share my thoughts, share what I think that I'm going through. And then from that, as interesting as this sounds, I will express as much as I can. And by the end of it, even though people are just listening to me, I'm actually listening to myself, and I actually help myself through talking to other people. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you guys too, but that's kind of more of my style. So there's my style I just told you. There's another style, the other person I told you that they'll just cut off everything and they'll just want to be alone. Like they'll cut off all their friends and stuff. For me, is like, ooh, I could only be alone for so long before I need to tell someone about it or like talk about it, you know? So that's something that's something I would do. So I'm curious, what would you do in that situation? I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that too. Okay? So either way, that is segment number 1 for today. I hope it's something that you guys, gave you room for deep thought and help you guys to understand a little bit more. I hope you guys will really be able to realize more deeply, especially about this week's Sunday message, and I will be going over that next. But before that, let's just take a quick break with the first music break of the day.
2023, we've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many, many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many, many, many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be ill. I know I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hard to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize. I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare, put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock, I got atomic bombs. Love the Lord your God and all your brothers once the demons fall. Don't be deceived, know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace, go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's the real deal, the real thing. Be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
All right, so let's get into today's Sunday message word study, and what a great message it was. The two titles: when sharing the word, you should deliver it with wise planning and testify to. Great point on this one. I really enjoyed this part. And of course, do not just pray, but take action. The one thing I found which was quite interesting from the beginning was the scripture was Titus chapter 2, verse 15. These then are the things you should teach, encourage, and rebuke with all authority. Do not let anyone despise you. I think that's quite interesting because it says encourage and rebuke with all authority. I think it's something that probably a lot of people have a hard time taking, is the rebuke part, right? Because, obviously I know that sometimes people can rebuke in the wrong way, or people can rebuke in such a way that, it maybe it could hurt people because of the way it's said or something along that line. But part of the thing is just like, it's when you teach, there should be encouragement and there should be rebuke with all authority. So don't let anyone just, and so I think it does require this difficulty of doing what? It's the difficulty of having the discernment between the two. Because I think when you guys, some of you guys who have, seen Sunseam too, there are times when there's super harsh rebukes, right? And you might be like, oh my gosh, my feelings are hurt. I can't believe he said that. But, we also have to realize that sometimes he's rebuking and saying things because it's what God wants at that moment. Or it could be a situation like, say, Moses, where God was going to just destroy everyone, but because Moses was stronger in his rebuke, God held back, right? So, so let's just get into the Sunday message. And there's 4 main points that came out of the message, and everything comes from these 4 points, right? The first one says, don't just pray, but actually take action on the applicable things, which means the things that belong to our responsibility, the smaller things. The second point, if you get yourself accustomed to literal faith and sensational faith of only wanting miracles and signs, the more you progress, the more you will fall into death, right? And the second point is more about the former faith. The former faith is more about that. You just pray and everything happens for you, but you'll realize people who are like this, they won't do their responsibility. And if they don't do their responsibility, those miracles and things won't happen, and then they fall more to temptation. They get tested and they fall deeper into death. Third point of the message is, be your life's owner and do not despise your authority, right? Do not despise the value of who you are, right? So that's something that I think that we should also look very deep into. And last but not least is, you must share the word wisely by planning it out well. Only then will it turn out 10 or 100 times better. And I think there's a lot of times where people just kind of spurt out things because they hear something in the message like, don't be ashamed, don't be afraid, just talk about, and people just talk about Sunseam, and the people that are listening to them are so turned off by it. Or they're like, what is this person talking about, right? And I think it's something that we have to plan out well. Share the word wisely, right? And this is when it turns out 10 or 100 times better, right? So let's get into the first point of the message is, don't just pray, but take action. Right? Don't just pray, but take action. And I like that first point is, a lot of times people just do a very vague prayer. It's not detailed. And it's the same thing you say every single day, right? Oh, heal my disease. Oh, do this. Oh, do that. But the reality is, you got to take action on the word, right? We have to do things like, I love the points that Sunseam makes is like, hey, if something has to be done medically, then do it medically. Don't sit there and just pray and think God's going to heal you and you drink medicinal water all the time. No, the things that must be done medically must be done medically, right? Some things that need to be done with like Oriental medicine should be done that way, right? Everything happens through your actions. Right? I think this is one of the biggest points that Sunseam has given us from the very, very beginning of our faith is, don't just rely only on God and just try to think that God is going to do every single thing for you. No. You have to do your actions, right? You have to do that thing. Pray as you do the things that you must do, right? And then Sunseam was talking about how to stop a burning sensation in your stomach, what other stuff did he have? Like about growing trees and stuff. And it doesn't work just through prayer. It's prayer and putting the words into action. And I like how Sunseam also said is like, don't just pray, take action. So it feels like it's so centered on action, right? And then he says, if you pray in addition to doing what you're supposed to do, then you will be, the problem will be completely resolved. Like even diseases that need to be cured. Right? So become a spiritual person and your faith will also become strong. So, God's going to pray us, God's going to heal us if we ask God in prayer, right? But he's going to heal us while we are doing the things that we ourselves should do, right? That's how it has to happen. So God and the Holy Spirit, that's why God and the Holy Spirit were teaching something like medicine, right? The medicine of daily life, how to treat health problems, right? Through prayer and medicine, which means Sunseem too, he's using what? He's using both, not just the prayer itself, where a lot of people kind of just pray and wait for a miracle to happen. But what Sunseem's saying is, no, prayer and medicine. I'm using both for me to get healed, right? Sunseem was giving so many answers from like lower back pain, herniated disc, which is quite amazing because on what day? Was it Saturday? It was Thursday. The leaders' prayer meeting, like one of the leaders had like a herniated disc and they went to the hospital, but here's Sunseem talking about it in the message right away, right? So the main point Sunseem is saying is, it's not going to work just because you prayed. You have to pray and do things, right? You have to pray and do it that way. So I hope it's something that we're not going to get too extreme about. When people get too extreme, they're always thinking like, oh, God will do this for me, God will do that for me. But the reality is, it is the actions we take while praying that makes the biggest difference, right? So, man, we had so much advice from, what was it? There's so much advice from how to fix your back, how to fix your stomach, how to fix all these other different ailments. And Sunseem was very, very clear. It's not just prayer. Prayer is not the only thing. I like that second video. When the second video talked about, remember when Sunseem showed the video where someone's lying on their back and then they start, lying on your back, bending your legs, moving them side to side, right? So he was talking about this, how to twist your upper body to the right and to the left so that you can fix your lower back. But then it went straight into the deep spiritual meaning is, the words that have been twisted through false truth must also be corrected in order to avoid suffering. History, too, must be corrected, and the direction must be set with the new time period. So just as the lower back is hurting, you can't do much. But in the same way, if we have a twisted truth, it has to be corrected in order for us not to feel the suffering like a lower back pain. And history must be corrected. Direction must be set with the new time period, right? So, I hope that we can realize more deeply what are the things that are twisted in our personal truth, right? The things that we look at in our life that we may look at too deeply. We may think too much about it. We may think that, oh, this person ruined my life. But in reality, the main person that can ruin their life is yourself. Like, that's why I was talking before in the first segment about victim mentality is a victim mentality kind of allows people to control their happiness. Yes, bad things happen in your life. Yes, bad things may have happened, but you still have control, right? You have control to change. You have control to do things differently. And that's something I really thought about too, is like, yeah, we need to fix the twists, the herniated discs and the knots in our back too, right? So, with our faith, just like the healing of the body, we can't just pray about our faith, but take action on the things we realize from praying and the things that pertain to them. That's what we need to do. So that's what is it? The key is prayer and action. Right? Hey, what about that funny video about the weight loss? That was I found that to be really funny. Like everyone was laughing inside the church too, but it makes total sense. You can't just pray for the weight to go away. You have to pray and start eating healthy. Like that's such a key thing, right? It's eating healthy, right? So I like one thing that Sanjeev talked about sick people. People were sick all the time. Even though a sick person didn't believe in God, when they set their mind to getting healed and they treat themselves for like up to 2 years and they eat healthy food, they are cured. Right? And that's why Sanjeev's like, yeah, don't just pray, but you have to also take action according to medical principles. So it's not just living the life the way you want. You need to know the medical principles. And when you know the medical principles, this is when you're able to do much better, right? So he's talking about like the trees he wants them to grow. And it was through Pastor Bumsuk explaining about the fertilizer, right? And the difference between like the two trees are like night and day. Which two trees? Well, the tree that is used for, what is it? The tree that is fertilized and the tree that's not fertilized. And there's a huge difference between the two, right? So I hope it's something that we can also realize more deeply even about ourselves. I think it's something that we should be realizing about growing takes fertilizer. And what the message is saying is a lot of times we're not getting fertilized. A lot of times we're not listening to the word properly. A lot of times we're not realizing deeply about the words. A lot of times we're not writing like in a diary full of words so that we can kind of understand the words even more deeply, like that kind of stuff too, right? So that's one, like, I loved how practical the message was. But another thing I really liked was he's talking about all these different places in Wonmyeongdong. And the artwork pine tree, Donggae Mountain. For me, I'm like, I know where that is. I know where that is. Absolutely. I know where Donggae Mountain is, right? So if someone said to me, where's Donggae Mountain? I'd be like, walk towards the grass lawn. And when you hit the Holy Sun statue, go up the hill, turn left and go up the hill all the way to the top. And then you'll hit Donggae Mountain. So that's Donggae Mountain, right? So, we have to, I love now that I can know the locations a lot better than I did before, and I have a much easier time like, oh, I know where this is, and I can help people more too. And the message was also about how in the future more people come to Wonmyeongdong, but the foreigners will value Wonmyeongdong more than the actual members. And then the message took a turn and it went into evangelism. And then suddenly just start talking about his stories of evangelism. And when you look at these stories, they're quite amazing. Like when you think about it, we're like going, man, like how does that work? Like remember that, what was it, that first story that he told the person, hey, I've prayed for months for you to be evangelized. Why don't you attend church? And that person's reaction is not going to, like we would expect the person to be like, oh, you liar, whatever it is. They're straight up saying what? Oh, I didn't know anyone was praying for me. Okay, I'll go to church. That's crazy, right? And the key point there was take action while telling the story at the same time. So Sanjeev is praying for this person, and then when he finally meets them and he's done the actions, he tells them the story with it, and it moves the person to actually do it, right? As the message said, evangelism is salvation, right? So, we're going to be telling people, some of them are going to agree with it, some of them are not. We need to pray and take action, and we need to tell people whether they listen or not. Because technically, we don't know who's going to be ready to hear that type of thing, right? So yeah, so many stories of evangelism. Some also said like, hey, when you show people one, don't tell them God and the Holy Spirit both said you should use it like you own it. And they'll follow only if it benefits them. So, it's interesting how we have to be those that know that there are so many different ways to actually evangelize. So many. And Sanjeev just given us all these examples. But the one thing Sanjeev said is you need to instill hope into people. Show them what the real reality, like the ideal reality. And once they see it, their thoughts will change, and then we have to keep the words of God, right? So for me, I was just like, yeah, it's really deep. Instill hope by showing them ideal reality. Show them what is ideal, how the right way to live, what's the ideal way to live. Because that's kind of what Sunsy's been teaching us all his life, right? So for me, it's really powerful when you see how Sunsim kind of tells you his experiences of how he evangelizes with Wonderdong, right? And Sunsim's like, hey, guess what? Everyone, you have to take action like you are the owner. You have the authority of the owner. And he's like, Sunsim's like, this is a sad part. He's like, why do you sound like you're asking for a favor when you own it, right? And the example he gave was, he's like, you have met the new time period and you're walking the path of life, so don't beg or ask for favors like a beggar. We possess the eternal world. We possess Wonmyeongdong. So as long as we explain to them well about what we have, they will see it, follow it because they like what they hear, right? It's almost like, imagine we're the ones that are so valuable. It seems like it's like holding a gold nugget that's worth like 100 million won. So that's like what? That's like $100,000, right? US. So he's like, if you have that gold nugget worth that much money, why do you speak like you're asking them for a favor by saying, oh, please buy this for like 100,000 won, right? You just, it's worth 100 million, but you beg people to buy it for 100,000. And if you do that, people are going to say, oh, if you offer 100,000, they're going to be like, oh, give me a discount. And they'll buy it from you for like 20,000. And others will just look at the owner like, fake, right? That's why it's so cheap. And that's why we have to understand one of the big points is about valuing your life, right? Don't cheapen yourself. Jesus said that we're more valuable than the entire world. So we have to preach to everyone the word of the time period and how precious it truly is. And this is when they see it, and this is when they follow. This is when they're happy. So give people hope. Make them learn by telling them things like, we have the best Bible study in the world. Like, that's such a big thing. Some of the books that we've talked about made me kind of like not too happy because it's about like the Vietnam book, which in English we only have like part 1 and part 2, right? And then there's another one, The Absolute God Who Saved Me from Death. I don't think we have that in English yet. I haven't seen that one yet, right? And so it seems like, hey, teach them properly about the books. Tell them if you read these books, your destiny will change, right? And, this is where people are going to look at it. They're going to really, really feel like, oh my gosh, this is really amazing, right? And they're going to try to perform their miracles. But it's, we have to realize that evangelism happens in these different types of ways. But we we bring ourselves down to these beggars. Like, we're begging people to do the Bible study, which we should never be doing, right? According to, like what I'm telling you, don't think of this, what we have is so cheap, right? And there's one point was so powerful is, Wonmyeongdong, God's temple, you must pay a fitting price. God gave it to us for free. Therefore, more than paying money, evangelize, right? Only then God and the Holy Spirit work upon us while inspiring us. We have to do it for God so that God will take action, right? So we have to be those that understand more and more. Prayer is not enough. It's prayer with action, because prayers don't come true for those who do nothing. They don't put anything into action itself, right? So, yeah, lots of things to think about and glean from the Sunday message, right? Sansim has also talked a lot about Wolmyeongdong, and he's like, artists will see Wolmyeongdong as a painting. Sculptors will see it as a sculpture. Landscapers will see it as landscaping. Architects will see it as a building. Feng Shui scholars will also see it as feng shui of the terrain. So show it to everyone. From where the sun rises to the sun sets, they'll realize about me. Convey this to them, right? And once again, Sansim always brings up the point is, go around Wolmyeongdong together with the lives chosen by God, showing them the trees, the rocks, let them climb the ambition masterpiece, look out from it, show it to them in detail. And once again, we're like, yeah, this is how important Wolmyeongdong is going to be. A lot of us, because especially in the Western countries, we don't know Wolmyeongdong very well. We just don't. So we're not going to see hope in evangelizing through Wolmyeongdong. You just can't, because you don't really fully know and understand Wolmyeongdong, right? So that's something that we have to recognize too is, remember guys, we have Wolmyeongdong, we own it, and don't think that we're asking people for a favor. Right? This and it seems like that's why evangelism is not working. Why do you sound like you're asking them a favor when you possess God's heaven? Why do you sound like you're asking a favor from someone who's going to go to death and hell? What we have is so valuable and expensive, right? And we're just like selling it off so cheaply. And I think one of the big hints Sansi gave is, before selling it, promote it, right? Do not beg, but testify. So you promote it by testifying. Yeah, I find that to be really sad when Sansi's talking a lot about, hey, stop begging people. Why are you asking people for a favor? You're going to give them the words that are so powerful, and it allows them to live perfectly in the future, right? To live forever, eternally, right? So Sansi was also like, tell people God holds the destiny of your body and spirit in his hands forever. You cannot make things go your way, no matter how much pride you have and how excellent your skills may be. God holds and does everything himself, right? So, yeah, there's just so much to get into. And talking about Wolmyeongdong, God's temple is God's body, right? God's temple is our connection with God. And I hope it's something that we can recognize all the more how great Wolmyeongdong really is, right? So, yeah, just so many great parts from the message, right? So many things that God is telling us, so many things that we need to listen to, our inspirations in our hearts. So I think it's something that we have to start recognizing when it comes to evangelism once again, right? So, where's this other part that I really liked? Well, Sasim also talked about, like living and treating beggars. I thought that was quite interesting, but I like the part at the very end when he's like, hey, if you live the life of a beggar, right, and you don't live the life you're supposed to live, even though I'm helping you with all these things, right, you're never going to get out of it, right? So you must come out and live when you are being helped according to the time period. Only then will you receive salvations, right? Just like the beggars, Sansi told them, get out before the summer monsoons come. They'll ruin everything about yours. You need to get help while the help is there, right? So the key point I loved is this: God gives us blessings as much as lives come in. So let's evangelize. And that's a huge point. We're blessed as much as lives come in, right? And Sansi said, at the very end, he's like, hey, look, I'm in the midst of the worst tribulation, right? I'm in the worst tribulation. But I am evangelizing and I am revealing their will to people right now, right? But here people are who are not in jail. They're affected by the mood of the moment. They fail because they go forward while judging without being able to look into the future. And, we have to be made just like Wolmyeongdong. And this is when we're able to truly fulfill our dreams, right? So I hope it's something that, we realize once again how important the evangelism aspect really and truly is. This evangelism aspect is that huge, and we have to realize it to that extent and to that event too, right? So that's kind of one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot too. And the message kind of opened a lot about how to evangelize and how to pray. Not just pray, don't just rely only on prayer, but we have to take action with prayer, right? And this is how a lot of changes have been made. Either way, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this this Sunday message word study. Have any questions or anything else, let me know. But would love for you guys to hear your comments about the Sunday message also. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is the end of today's this segment on Sunday Message Word Study. And before we get into Provi the Media, let's move into the final music break of the day.
We never run. Don't throw the towel in like you done. Don't talk all the talk like you did something. Breaking down the barricade, you know we coming through. They think they got us all surrounded, but you know we bulletproof. Boom! Never fall for deception, defeating God's nemesis, Satan. I'm like Tom Clancy, that they can catch me stealthy. It's so healthy, the opportunity doesn't come back. Just because you miss it, there's no glory without sacrificing. You better fit your position. My life's not perfect, but I'm always resurrected. Now determines the future more than any time. I gotta make it. Day or night, right now is important. Young or old, right now is important. Realize that right now is important before it's too late and time is up. Every day I gotta go, yeah, I gotta move right now is important. I do well, trying to catch my dreams. I'm never giving up right now. It's just time shine, don't mess it up. Right now we gotta do what we gotta do. We can't let nothing hold us back, we gotta move. God will always keep his promises to us. We can't just hope and talk and dream, that's not enough. You will receive according to what you have done. If we don't reach to heaven, that will not be fun. What you have done ain't what happens now. What you are doing now will make what happens in the future. Gotta stick to it. They can lie, they can cheat, and they can slander, but this history will not stop and keep going. We have to stay together. It's such a loss you fail to recognize the Messiah too late. It's either the path of life or death, so pick your fate. Right now is important, right now is important. 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 Yeah, now's an important time. Now's an important time. Check your thoughts right now. Check your thoughts right now. Now's an important time. Now's an important time. Check your thoughts right now. Check your thoughts right now. Now's an important time. Now's an important time. Check your thoughts right now. Check your thoughts right now. Now's an important time. Now's an important time. Check your thoughts right now. Check your thoughts right now.
Okay, so let's get into today's final segment, which is Provi in the Media. And I've been checking the news cycles, and there's actually not much going on because Sunseem's second trial is going on, and the Supreme Court, we don't know if they accepted his trial appeal or not. So we're still waiting on that. But, there's no real big news, but I do know that tomorrow another trial is going on, which is the third week in a row for Sunseem. So everyone, please pray and make sure that the conditions that are set for Sunseem to do well in this trial will really work out, and that we'll be able to do it according to God's will also. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is Provi in the Media, which is not much because there's nothing much to update. If you have any questions or anything else, please let me know. And I hope you guys have an amazing and awesome Monday. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.